Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Joint Legislative Audit Committee. Members, we have a large agenda this morning. I encourage all committee members to report to room 126 so that we can establish a quorum and take care of today's business. Seeing that we do not have a quorum, we will operate it as a subcommittee. We will begin with the status report from our State Auditor, Elaine Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As of today, we currently have 20 audits in progress. 2 of those are audits that were approved by the Audit Committee with respect to our local high-risk program. Those are the audits of the City of Maywood, City of Hemet. We also have 15 other JLAC audits that this committee has approved during the course of this year, and some that were approved late last year. And then we also have 3 statutory audits that are underway as far as meeting our statutory responsibilities. 2 of them related to the financial audit we do on an annual basis, and 1 related to the Board of Registered Nursing that we were expected to start this year, so we have commenced that audit. There are not any audits awaiting staff. We have fully staffed all of the audits that have been assigned to us, either through statute or through approval by this committee. The committee today will be considering 11 requests. My office, between today and August, will be able to start 4 of those audits. We will have capacity to start other audits, depending on how many the committee approves today, in future months, so I can give the committee an estimate on that as well. We will be issuing several audits throughout the rest of the year. As I said, between now and August, we can start 4. In September, October, November, we'll be issuing another 9 audits, so that will be freeing up 9 additional teams. And then we have another audit that we intend to issue in December. So we have capacity from today through the end of the calendar year to start between 13 and 14 audits if the committee decides to approve that many, either at this hearing or the subsequent hearing in August. So with that, Mr. Chair, I could answer any questions members may have.
Yes, seeing that we have 11 audit requests in today's agenda, and you could only start 4 new audits now and between August, how will you handle the demand for these audit requests due to the limited resources?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. As I indicated, we currently have four teams that would be available to start audits between now and August. So those teams would be ready to be assigned. Then, to the extent the committee approves additional audits today, as I said, we will be issuing more reports. We have 3 reports going out in September and 5 going out in October. So that would be 8 more resources. So as those resources free up, we would assign them to any audits that are approved today.
I also just want to encourage members to come report to room 26 so that way we can establish a quorum. So with that, we will start and update today's agenda. The following 4 audits have been pulled from the agenda by the requesting members. First one, 2016-116, Government Entities Cybersecurity Compliance by Assemblymember Chow. The next one, 2016-119, the California Public Utilities Commission, California Advanced Services Fund, and the California Emerging Technology Fund by Assemblymember Gatto. Number 2016-120, Workmen's Compensation Fraud by Assemblymember Daly. And 2016-123, Covered California Coverage by Pregnant Women by Assemblymember Patterson. Santa Clara County Registered Elections Process by Assemblymember Campos. Those 4 items have been pulled. That leaves us with 9 audit requests to consider this morning. 5 of these audit requests are on a proposed consent calendar. We also have a vote-only audit request, audit number 2016-117, Alliance College Ready Schools. After that, we have 3 audits for presentation this morning. We will take up the consent calendar on the vote-only audit as soon as we establish a quorum. Okay, the first member we have is Assemblymember Adam Gray, who is for a presentation only on 2016-118, Air Resources Board Administrator of a Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund Expenditures and Outcomes. Assemblymember Gray. floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. The governor has proposed a $3.1 billion spending plan for the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund in the budget. The LAO has raised significant concerns surrounding the current spending plan. Under current law, the state can only spend the funds on the programs that facilitate greenhouse gas reductions. However, this pot of money has become a feeding frenzy for a multitude of pet projects and programs. I myself have 3 pieces of legislation related to this, and there are numerous others from our colleagues. CARB recently introduced a plan to send millions of taxpayer dollars to indigenous communities in the Amazon rainforest in exchange for efforts to preserve trees and prevent deforestation. Dan Moraine of the Sacramento Bee pointed out in his editorial about cap and trade that these funds are becoming a fight over pork, not climate change. We're missing an important opportunity, members, to fund real priorities that need our immediate attention. For example, the air quality in the San Joaquin Valley, where my district is, continues to rank amongst the worst in the nation, with the American Lung Association giving an F for both ozone and particle pollution. Members, we have a responsibility to ensure that public dollars are used in the most productive and cost-effective manner. It's time we figure out just how effective or ineffective the state's greenhouse gas reduction programs have been at addressing climate change, and we should make that determination before any other dollars are committed through the budget. The audit proposal before you today asks the auditor to answer a set of fundamentally basic questions. What reductions are attributable to greenhouse gas reduction fund investments? How cost effective have those reductions been? And is there a target cost effectiveness threshold? What metrics exist to quantify air quality benefits from existing programs? Without answers to these basic questions, it is nearly impossible for the legislature to know how responsibly we are spending greenhouse gas reduction fund dollars. This is an important step to give us the tools to make those decisions through the budget process. And with that, I will invite, I think we have a few people here in support of the audit.
Okay, we can have up to 2 folks if they're here. Assemblymember Gray to speak on behalf of the audit request. Did you have someone to present? No? Okay, that's fine. With that, State Auditor, Ms. Howe, to present your analysis of the audit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Assemblymember Gray indicated, this would be looking at the Air Resources Board and the cap and trade funding, specifically asking us to look at the extent to which ARB actually evaluates the cost-effective uses of the funds that were generated to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. To the extent possible, he's asked us to identify the reduction in statewide greenhouse gas emissions since cap and trade was implemented, and how much of that is actually tied to the funds that were generated with the purchases through cap and trade. In addition, asking us to determine whether ARB is actually measuring or estimating the reduced emissions via the various programs. So looking at specific programs that were funded by the auction, the revenue generated through the auction, and the nature and magnitude of those reductions. So trying to tie, again, into the cost effectiveness of the program. Also determining whether or not ARB has actually established timeframes under which certain programs that have been funded with cap and trade money actually are expected to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And then the last objective is asking us to look at a sample of projects, a selection of projects that were funded since 2012, and looking at a few indicators related to those projects. First of all, of course, total amount of funding appropriated to that particular project. What's the time frame, again, for achieving the greenhouse gas emission reductions, the magnitude of those reductions, and then, as Mr. Gray indicated in his comments, looking for metrics, determine whether or not there were even metrics developed, and if so, whether the project is meeting those metrics, or if not, why not. The audit is budgeted at about 2,700 hours. That would be about a 7-month project.
Thank you, Ms. Howe, for your presentation. Just a quick comment for the individual just showed up. You're here representing affected agencies or for public comment?
Public comment. Public comment.
We'll do the public comment at the end. So if you can excuse yourself, and we'll have the agencies affected present. Assemblymember Gray, were there your witnesses by chance that did want to come and speak, or are they here for public comment?
Those folks.
For public comment or to present or support?
Present and support.
Okay, so they're your witnesses that didn't come up. So let's bring them back to come up and.
Agency.
Yeah, I think we do.
Yeah. Let's do the agencies first. We kind of went out of order there with them sitting at the table.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Edie Chang. I'm a Deputy Executive Officer at the Air Resources Board. I want to thank you for the opportunity to respond to Assemblymember Gray's request for information about the state's investment of cap-and-trade auction proceeds, which are also referred to as California's climate investments. These investments are an important part of the state's overall climate strategy, and they're reducing greenhouse gas emissions, providing public health and environmental and economic co-benefits throughout California. The questions Assemblymember Gray posed are important, and we're happy to provide responses. Transparency and accountability for the expenditure of California climate investments is a top priority for the administration. At the beginning of each year, the appropriate agencies provide ARB information on the status of their investments. ARB and the Department of Finance use the data submitted by the agencies to develop annual reports. In March of this year, the Department of Finance, in coordination with the ARB, released the 2016 annual report. I've got a copy here. On our climate change investments. This year's report summarizes data for each of the programs that have been appropriated funding and includes information on funding amounts, anticipated greenhouse gas reductions, and co-benefits. The report also documents how agencies are investing in projects that benefit disadvantaged communities, which is a key objective for these funds. As a supplement to the printed report, we have also posted a detailed searchable spreadsheet that includes all projects funded through December that's available on our website. With this information, we believe we can respond to most of the questions posed by the Assembly member. We'd be happy to follow up with responses to these questions and provide our responses in any format that's the most useful to both the Assembly member and this committee. So thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Assemblymember Gray, I know we kind of went out of order, so you can bring your witnesses forward on your behalf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Michael Shaw with the California Manufacturers and Technology Association. You all should have received a letter that includes a coalition of industry groups. And I think we're very encouraged by the Assembly members' request here to look at the cost effectiveness of the greenhouse gas reduction fund investments that California is making. The cap and trade program does require a lot from industry in terms of investment in either purchasing allowances or making investments in technology to help reduce emissions. Those do have consequences for our companies. So the way that money is invested in California and the reductions that it achieves are very important to us. So we appreciate the Assembly member bringing the request forward to ask the Air Resources Board to provide additional finite detail on how those investments are made, the cost effectiveness with which they're evaluated, the additional co-benefits that are generated from that, and specifically looking for detail as to how these investments of the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund dollars are achieving certain reductions as compared to other funds that may be investing in a particular project. So how much is actually attributable to the GGRF investment versus others? We think the questions that the Assembly member proposes are reasonable. We'll provide additional detail that will be helpful for this legislature as you look at investing the roughly $3 billion in this coming year's budget, the 2016-17 budget, as well as going forward. There are important questions to be asked, and we think that it is important to do that. The Department of Finance investment or report on California climate investments estimated 14.5 million metric tons over the next 80 years. We think that over the next 80 years may be a bit of longer time frame for us to be looking at when we're talking about investments that are being made today, dollars that are being taken out of industry to be used for a specific purpose today, and that we need to be looking at a shorter time frame. In addition to that, there is an open question as to the post-2020 cap and trade program. as well as generally post-2020 climate change policy. This legislature has yet to weigh in on those questions as well, and we think that this information would be critical in providing additional input for legislation establishing that statute and policy in California. So we thank you for the opportunity to express our support. We are encouraged that ARB is here expressing an interest in answering these questions, and we look forward to seeing the answers to those questions come forward to this committee and to Assemblymember Gray. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members, Rob Lapsley, President, California Business Roundtable. Just an additional comment on behalf of my members, but also other state, regional, local business groups who have spent a tremendous amount of time on these issues in implementing our climate change goals. We believe this is the right request at the right time for the right reasons. We are at a pivotal time to be able to look at where we are from an implementation, so that if the legislature needs to make some changes to be able to reach these goals, you're going to have the data in front of you to do that. We have the highest respect and confidence with the Auditor General, and we believe that for the legislature to have more information is obviously in the best interest to make the best possible decisions and not. And for that reason, we are fully supportive in asking the committee to take a look at this and to move it forward. So thank you for your time.
Assemblymember Gray, had any other witnesses in support? No. Okay, so we'll bring it up to, do we have someone? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Doug Subers on behalf of the Western States Petroleum Association. We would like to associate ourselves with the previous comments and thank Assemblymember Gray for bringing forward this request.
Is another witness in support?
Good morning, Deborah Matos, representing California Independent Oil Marketers Association. We want to thank Assemblyman Gray. This is exactly what you, the legislature, this is the information you need to make an educated decision. Thank you.
Peter Blocker with the California Taxpayers Association. We're also in support.
With that, we'll bring it back up to questions by members of the committee. Assemblymember Baker, go ahead.
Thank you, Member Gray, for bringing forward this audit. I just want to make sure it goes into enough specifics and detail. So I think the question may be for our auditor. We really need, as a body, to have more information about what specific programs are having what result. Mm-hmm. I've found on many other committees a discussion about, look how great the programs are, we're reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but they're unable to substantiate which of the 28 or 50 or others are actually connected to real results. Does this audit give you enough direction to get into the kind of detail that we need, in particular, if we're going to look at how cost effective we are and there have been reductions and here's why, which programs have done it and which ones have not? Do you have enough direction from us, should we approve this audit, to get into that detail?
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Yes, there are at least two objectives in the scope and objectives that specifically ask us to identify programs, and then as far as the cost benefit by program, I would think that would be an objective 3. We would certainly start with their report, but determine whether or not they have estimated reduced emissions by programs funded. My intent, our expectation would be to try to split that out via various programs so that you can determine the nature and magnitude by respective program. Then objective 4 is actually asking us to look at specific projects. So I again would assume those are projects that are within certain programs, and when we select those projects, we would want to make sure that we try to cover a variety of programs so that we can give you that kind of information.
That is very good, because it sounded a little bit more general. You know, the implementation that's attributable to the fund's appropriations just sounded very broad, and I think it's going to be critical that we find out what has actually shown results, what is failing to show results, because we could really benefit from that. So I will take this at its word, and I'm pleased to see that we can get that kind of detail.
Senator Beal, you had a question?
Yes, Bill. Yeah.
Bill, sorry.
In 2014, I chaired the Budget Subcommittee on Transportation. I now chair, of course, the Transportation Committee in the Senate. And in 2014, we gave the ARB additional funds to, we approved 8 positions to do quantification methodologies and analysis to present to the legislature information about the cost effectiveness of various items for evaluating the greenhouse gas emissions, like how effective was the expenditures of these funds for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So when the audit came up, Assemblymember Gray, I was intrigued because I wanted to know what happened to that. Did they actually implement that? Did they have? Do we have a set of cost-benefit information that we can make effective judgments on whether or not the greenhouse gas emissions expenditures are cost-effective? And then we also approved several millions of dollars at the time for enhancing the coordination, administration, monitoring of the cap and trade program at the time. So we sort of beefed up the whole program so we can really do these cost effectiveness kinds of things like this audit's talking about. Now I'm raising this issue now because here we are with an audit, and I actually tried to get information recently and I couldn't get the information. And I'm the chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee, okay? So I want to know if there's any comments that your exploration of this issue, Assemblyman, what your thoughts are on that. We put money into the budget. We were supposed to have this information, and it doesn't seem to be available. I don't know what your comments are.
I'll just say my experience has been consistent with your experience, but perhaps the agency might want to respond as to what the follow-up was on those metrics.
So I can address that. We do so under statute. ARB is charged with developing quantification methodologies to ensure that all of the projects are counting greenhouse gases. If they're the same kinds of projects, they're counting them in the same way. And so there is a process that we go through. We do have a team of people that were authorized under a budget expenditure that are working with the 14 agencies that get funding under the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, and they work with those agencies to develop quantification methodologies. Those methodologies are developed by a team of staff within ARB in coordination with staff from the agencies that are actually developing the programs. Those quantification methodologies, it's been sort of a process. So the first year we were sort of catching up and some of the agencies did their own. We did review them, and as we've been moving through the second and third years of funding, we actually develop these methodologies. We post them in draft so that there is a public process so that people can review them, and then we finalize them. The numbers that are shown in the annual report are the greenhouse gas reductions are based on those quantification methodologies.
Thank you. Any other members' questions?
That just prompted one quick follow-up. And this, again, I guess would be for the auditor. Are you going to be only relying on the ARB's information so that if they say, here's what the reductions are from this program, will you have any way to double-check that?
Well, that would be our goal as far as completing the objective. It wouldn't be just taking what the ARB has. We'd want to look at the methodology, make sure we understood the nature of the methodology, determine whether it's reasonable. If we need to hire in-house expertise or expertise to assist our in-house staff, we would do that. But we would not take things at face value. We would try to do everything we could to verify the accuracy and legitimacy of the information that the ARB provides.
Assemblymember Wood, got a question?
Just to respond to the ARB, the stuff that I've seen is not of sufficient detail for us to make any constructive conclusion about. Excuse me. It's not of sufficient detail for us to make any constructive conclusion about the expenditures, in my opinion.
Assemblymember Wood, got a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess my question back would be to Mr. Gray. That are you satisfied with that answer? I'm guessing not. And And I think that it kind of points to a larger issue that I have seen with agencies that I have tried to get information from. It's not easy to get information, and we are members of the legislature, and we should be able to get information we want in a timely manner. The answers are direct questions, and so I think what you're doing here is partly to the meat of the issue that a lot of us have concerns about. So I'm going to guess that you're not satisfied with that answer.